Welcome in, chess friends. Today, we're going to see a little more entertaining lesson in two games. There'll be some fun stuff to learn. I'll try to make some points, but a little more fun today. We are talking a very rare sight at the master and grandmaster level, quadruple pawns. You might have heard of them. You might have dreamed of them, but have you ever really gotten quadruple pawns? Triple pawns, it's rare. Sometimes it happens just for a move, but quadruple pawns is very, very unlikely to happen. So let's jump in and see where this actually does occur in two very high-level games. This one, just briefly. So let's jump in. John Van de Ville, very strong grandmaster, and Vestimil Hort, also a legendary player. I read up a little bit about the player with the white pieces here. I saw he won the Tata Steel, as it was called, Wick Anzi, back in the early 80s. Another thing I read on the Wikipedia page seemed a little amusing was that he was known as a computer killer. So that's a funny concept nowadays, but I guess he beat some of the early computers. Okay, G4, an exciting move in this Caro-Kann advanced variation. And here we have the first instance of doubled pawns. Just a fun question for people. How many moves do you think it would take, pawn moves, to get quadruple pawns? How many pawn moves does it take to get quadruple pawns? Well, of course, you need one. You can move the pawn up maybe here and get two, or three, four. I think that's right. So one, two, three, four. I think 5 moves you need. So it's a kind of a tricky question. Here we go. H4, trying to trap the bishop, but bishop and queen connect here on C2. So that needed to be guarded. H6, capture, capture. And white plays bishop d3, trying to just take this and give black some double pawns of their own. So black is solid here, the engine giving roughly equal. b5 looks a bit outlandish, lashing out a bit, but it's not such a bad move, although he does end up castling that way. Here we go. Castle's long. Exciting, still roughly equal, but very dramatic. All the pawns are still on the board here. 2 knights versus 2 bishops. Very interesting game. White plays king f2. Brazen move, but all the black pieces are a bit far from the white king as they stand. Here comes really the moment where the quadruple pawns occur, albeit briefly. This was still an interesting game, so I was happy to see that. It wasn't just some gimmick type game. Queen f3, and he plays here rook d7, but I wanted to point out, speaking of some entertaining pawn structures, that if black were to take this and think, aha, I can march the pawn perhaps, a good move might be to take the knight. Yes, this I wanted to note the so-called bathtub pawn structure, I think, coined by maybe Hikaru. But I also thought this was a funny one here. This cannot connect 4, I don't know, 4 corners type structure. So very entertaining, a variety of pawn structures. That did not occur in the game here, but we do have the bathtub, the quadruple pawns, the triple pawns. So this is a fun one today. F5. Interesting. White is trying to break open the lines of attack with their king right here, but seems safe enough. C5. Capture. That gives triple pawns, and there's no captures immediate. He plays knight e5. Queen g3. That hits the knight. Knight 7 to c6. And here an exciting move, and the best move. Bishop takes b5. These players came to fight today. Really interesting. The white king just chilling. Pieces hanging here. We have triple pawns. White also has 4 pawns that have crossed the 5th rank. On the 5th rank. Really interesting. Rook e8, and here we go. Pawn takes c6. Quadruple pawns in a grandmaster game, and now they're gone. Sorry, that didn't last long, but I thought that was really, even for a moment, this game is so dramatic. It's entertaining. It's such a rare sight here. So There we go. Quadruple pawns. Have they ever happened in a Grandmaster game? There it is. There it is. 5 pawns on the same file. I doubt. That really takes some gymnastics. But let's just finish the game up because it's still very dramatic. In fact, d4, the best move. Black is a bit better here and completely blunders. So easy to understand. Remember, white had this nice shield of pawns now disappearing and very scary. Black is winning. Black is winning this game. d3, also the best move. Really, Hort here, very good. This game was in the early 80s, 81, I believe. Knight is threatened. Notice there's some danger if this knight were to move elsewhere. Not too many options, but terrible move. But rook b8 or queen b8 is checkmate. So this knight, the reason we're poking at it is it doesn't have too many safe squares. 95 is safe, but there is a pin here, and keep that in mind. Actually, that pin ends up costing black the game, albeit not just by checkmate. Rook h4, d2. Black is winning. Black is winning here. Really, this pawn is too powerful. The white king is too open. But somehow here he slips out of all this danger. Capture, capture. There's a nice pin there. Keep that in mind. We can't just take the pawn yet. This rook is hanging. Rook back to b1. And queen takes h5. Not decisive yet, but black does just collapse here. Engine gives rook d8 -4. -4. Black is winning. In fact, the best move just to give away this bishop. So let's see a series of blunders, unfortunately, for black here. Queen takes. Doesn't quite throw everything away. I'm sure he was excited. This was guarded. We're threatening the bishop. This is over. But bishop takes. Engine giving here. Black is better with only one move. Queen c6. Give me a break. Another blunder, though. This one really costs black after bishop f4. This cannot safely be covered. And, of course, then it would be check and the rook. And really, queen h1 just isn't scary enough. If you, let's say, play this check, the only move, take the rook as you were intending, you actually lose the knight and the rook. This is check. So still some work to be done there, but white is winning. So this move actually throws the game away, not queen h5. But here we go, guys. Queen h5 blunder. Rook h8 blunder. And why is that a blunder, Chris? We can guard that with f6 blunder. And the notes, actually, I had the notation ended the game here, but if f6, then queen g7. There's too much danger around the king. Whatever safe move you think you can play, we're answering with check. And notice here, a move like king d8. This is just mate. Just checkmate at 1. So these pieces coming from all angles here is actually a white win. So cool game there, albeit was very brief. The quadruple pawns that we were hoping to see here. Pretty equal dynamic position, quadruple pawns. Okay, that game I wanted to show because it was the higher rated players, GM versus GM, and some pretty impressive guys. Nice game. But this one is more entertaining for our quadruple pawns discussion. So let's take a look. I believe white is an IM. These are a bit lesser known players, but shoot me a message if you know either of these guys. But still at the 2400 level, roughly FM IM, masters for sure. And we have a game with quadruple pawns that just lasts and lasts. They're a part of this interesting position. So let's take a look here on Alekhine's defense, but kind of a unique follow-up. And we get kind of this generic type position, fianchetto, weird pawn structure. Roughly white, maybe a tad bit better, but equal. f4, not the most accurate move. But again, we're not going to get into all the ins and outs of the game. Bishop a3, queen d3, active moves at least, and f5, really just starting to fight for something. We already see here these are doubled pawns. Like in the last game, this is going to also occur on the c file. Here, c5, capture, f takes. Actually, all three moves roughly the same. The engine here on chess.com is giving h takes as a tiny bit better than the others, but all white is slightly better. When he plays f takes, kind of looks weird to our eyes. When you have weird pawn structures, unique situations, people's instincts do not work as well. You don't see things quite as naturally. You don't really just recognize the patterns because they're not so native to chess. So when you get these positions with triple pawns and pieces on a bit unique or seldom used squares, the calculating becomes more important, essentially. Okay, let's see. Rook A to D1, and white is better. A really nice active rooks. White does have an extra pawn in their pocket, albeit tripled, and you know, kind of this still a nice configuration. Here, of course, en passant is what we have to always play. And not here, though. Knight D4. What a move. Visually, that's just a bizarre move. En passant is possible. But knight D4, a good move. And here is where the game goes off the rails. With queen takes G2. Not too shocking, as here white's queen is also hanging. I don't think anybody would resist that move if we saw it. Queen G2, actually the best move. Of course, the only move, king takes, b takes c4, and not yet. I know you're waiting for it, but no. Knight b5. Also, keeping this knight really stuck on the edge. Perhaps knight d6 or rooks to the 7th rank could be on tap here for white. He plays rook b8, rook eb8, and now, 22 moves into the game, we have quadruple pawns at a master level. And the game goes on. Folks, this lasts to the end of the game, 22 more moves. So this is just a unheard of structure in chess. Very unique. But let's see how it plays out. Engine, white is slightly better. Knight d6. The bishop guards the top of this tower, so you cannot take it with the rook. The knight is threatening to take it, but knight e4 keeps it guarded. Other rook to c8, rook d7. Offers a rook trade, and he does not trade rooks. Interesting line the engine gives was rook f to f7. Almost visually weird, like you can play king takes or something. But there, that is actually probably the best move, retaining one rook at least after the trade on the 7th rank. White is clearly better. But he does, in fact, play rook d6 and then kind of gets pushed around and forces a trade. So one pair of rooks goes off. White has a better rook, an extra pawn, albeit quadrupled, and probably the better king. The knight is a great piece. Actually, white should be a bit better here, and is, but they are unable. White is unable to hold on to this advantage in this bizarre game. Rook takes pawn. Now white is 2 pawns ahead, albeit quadrupled. Look at this construction. Have you ever seen some sort of exclamation point on the chessboard? G5, H4. Look at this pawn structure. Really bizarre. Doesn't even take the H pawn, but here black, I think black just throwing it all in, looking for liquidation. Black actually walks kind of a tightrope here to survive, but we have, again, the pawns cover a lot of squares. They cover the knight, they cover the bishop, they cover some of this knight's squares. So actually, you know, the pawns, albeit funny, they do guard some really key strategic points. Knight b8, you didn't have any other moves with the knight. And this rook comes around to make check. Looks like white could deliver a checkmate here. It looks like that, almost. We are threatening knight g7. It almost appears like there's a mate possible with this king just locked in. But black defuses all of that quickly with rook g6. Capture, and things do a bit fizzle out. Here, again, it's been 20 moves since the quadruple pawn showed up. King h3, almost done here. Knight c6 and king takes h4. Here the players agreed to a draw. A fair result, actually. You know, an interesting game. White had the slightly better of it, but a draw is pretty fair. I do want to point out that this is not a position we can get greedy with black, though. For example, if you play knight a5 and say, well, it's nice to close the gap on the score, and we'll just take a free pawn and get back in time. Actually, knight takes c4 is losing due to c6. That's a natural move. King f4, natural move, and somewhere around here, you have to just play a waiting type move. Let's say knight c8. There are a few waiting moves, which is very typical in bishop endgames, just shuttling up and down diagonal just to waste tempo. But yeah, you can technically zugzwang black here and get your king around. So a move like this will cut off the knight's jumps, and I believe our king is just supposed to walk around all the way. Something like that. So not certain the perfect plan, but engine is giving plus 12. So white is certainly winning. Really a funny game, but just wanted to point that out, that there is not without danger here still for black. Maybe worth playing on a bit, but they agreed to draw here. So fun games today. I hope you enjoyed these ones. Not what we'll typically see on this channel. Again, my goal is to really help you improve and enjoy. This one goes in the enjoy category. Yeah, but there's still some lessons. Again, oftentimes you'll see in the Sicilian, double pawns right in the center. Kind of looks bad to our eyes, but they cover a lot of key squares. We saw that a little in this one. And maybe if your friends ask you if there's ever been quadruple pawns in a GM game, you can remind them of this funny moment here. So cool games today. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again soon. Have a good day.